Chapter 1. It was a warm summer evening, and David felt relieved. His exams were over, college was finished, and now it was time to think about the future. He dreamed of becoming a writer, working for a newspaper. But before that, he needed a break. The air inside his small apartment was too hot, so he decided to go for a walk by the lake. David lived in a quiet town, and within minutes he reached the peaceful lakeside. As he strolled along the shore, he noticed a girl standing alone, gazing at the water. She wore a flowing blue dress, and her long golden hair shone in the evening light. Curious, he walked up to her. "Beautiful evening, isn't it?" he said. The girl turned and smiled. "Yes, it is." Her name was Emma. They talked for hours, sharing dreams and thoughts. Emma loved painting and wanted to travel the world. David found himself enchanted by her voice, her laughter, and the way she spoke about life. As the sun set, Emma sighed. "I should go now." "Where do you live?" David asked. Emma pointed toward a grand house on the hill. "That white house up there." David hesitated. "I live near the market in the little red house." Emma smiled warmly. "That sounds lovely." From that night on, they met often by the lake. David wrote poems for Emma, and she painted pictures inspired by his words. He was falling in love. One evening, he gathered the courage to say, "Emma, I love you. Do you love me too?" Emma looked down, her smile fading. "Yes, I do. But it's complicated." The next day, she seemed distant. When David asked her what was wrong, she just shook her head. That night, a messenger arrived at David's house. "The lady of the house on the hill requests your presence." Excited, David hurried to the mansion, but instead of Emma, an older woman greeted him coldly. "My daughter will marry someone of her own status. Forget her." David felt his heart shatter. He turned away, knowing that Emma loved him, but was trapped by her family's expectations. Chapter 2. David was heartbroken. He barely ate, barely spoke. One day he saw a newspaper announcing a writing contest. The winner would receive a job as a journalist and a cash prize. Determined, he picked up his pen. He wrote their story, the love, the pain, the impossible choice Emma had to make. If she read it, she would know how much he loved her. Weeks later, his mother rushed in, waving a letter. "David, you won!" David was stunned. He had won the contest, the money, and a chance to start over. He was no longer just a dreamer. He was a writer. Chapter 3. David's articles became popular, and he made a name for himself. One evening, a fellow reporter mentioned, "Have you heard about Emma from the White House? She left her husband." David's heart pounded. "Why?" "Her mother passed away, and now she's on her own, but I heard she was never truly happy." David spent the night wondering. Did Emma still love him? Did he still love her? The next morning he found himself walking toward the lake, and there, standing by the water, was Emma. She turned and smiled. "David," she whispered, and in that moment he knew their story wasn't over yet.
In the heart of London, where the streets were alive with hurried footsteps and chiming bells, there lived a young watchmaker named Ethan. He was known for his unmatched skill in crafting the finest timepieces, each one more precise than the last. Yet, despite his success, Ethan was always in a rush, believing every second lost was money wasted. One evening, as he was about to close his shop, an old traveler named Mr. Gregory stepped inside. He was unlike any customer Ethan had seen before. His clothes were simple yet elegant, his eyes deep with stories untold. "I'd like a watch," Mr. Gregory said, placing a worn-out timepiece on the counter. "But not just any watch. I want one that can teach me the true value of time." Ethan smirked. "Time's value is simple. Every second is worth something. The more you save, the richer you become." Mr. Gregory chuckled. "Is that so? Then tell me, young man, what did you do today that made your time valuable?" Ethan hesitated. "I worked on 10 watches, sold 3, and earned a good profit." "And did you laugh today? the old man asked. Did you watch the sunset? Did you share a moment with someone dear? Ethan frowned. Those don't make money. Mr. Gregory smiled and handed him a small golden pocket watch. This watch belonged to my father. It stopped ticking the day he passed away. I keep it as a reminder that time isn't just about counting seconds. It's about making them count. For the first time, Ethan felt uneasy. He spent years mastering the mechanics of time, but had never truly lived it. The old traveler patted his shoulder. Time isn't meant to be spent, Ethan. It's meant to be cherished. The richest man isn't the one with the most gold, but the one with the most beautiful memories. That night, Ethan didn't rush home. He took a long walk by the Thames, watched the stars, and for the first time in years, he smiled. Not because he made money, but because he finally understood time's true worth. The mysterious lesson, Mr. Reynolds, the most enigmatic teacher at Westwood High, walked into the classroom with an old, dusty box in his hands. His students, Jake, Lily, and Sam, exchanged curious glances. Today's lesson, Mr. Reynolds announced with a smirk, is unlike any other. He placed the box on his desk and carefully opened it. Inside lay 4 peculiar objects: an antique key, a torn map, a compass, and a locked diary. You have exactly 1 hour to uncover the secret hidden in these items, he continued. Only by solving the mystery will you truly understand today's lesson. Jake, the logical thinker, grabbed the compass and map. There must be a hidden location marked here, he reasoned. Lily, the history enthusiast, examined the diary. This looks ancient. If we can unlock it, we might find something important. Sam the skeptic rolled his eyes. This is just another one of Mr. Reynolds' weird puzzles. But fine, let's do it. As they worked together, deciphering clues, their teamwork and individual strengths came into play. Jake used his navigation skills to find coordinates on the map. Lily researched historical references to understand the diary's origin. Sam, despite his initial doubt, used his analytical mind to crack the code on the lock. As the final piece fell into place, the diary clicked open. Inside, they found a handwritten note. The greatest lesson isn't in the answer, but in the journey to find it. Mr. Reynolds smiled. You see, real education isn't about memorizing facts. It's about curiosity, collaboration, and critical thinking. The 3 students looked at each other, realizing they had just experienced the most unforgettable lesson of their lives.